All right, guys, we're back for another Legions Imperialis battle report. Today we're going to be playing the river crossing mission from the Rise of the Dark Mechanicum. So we also have a new guest on the channel. Hunter is going to be joining us. And so, Hunter, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into Legions Imperialis?
Hey, thanks for having me. Gonna be honest, I got into Legions Imperialis because I painted a big knight for 40k and was like, I need more big stompy boys. So I went ahead and got myself, the first thing I even bought was the Reaver and the starter set, and here we are now. Full big Titan Guard ready to go.
Awesome. So yeah, we're gonna go through Hunter's list here in just a minute, but I just wanted to show you the table and introduce him. And so I'll see you guys in just a second. All right, so this is 2,000 points of combined Alpha Legion and Collegia Titanica or Mechanicum?
Mechanicum.
Okay, great. And yeah, Hunter, go ahead and take us through it.
Yeah, so we've got Ordo Reductor over there with 4 plasma mortars, the Reaver with weapons as seen. We've got a Volcano Cannon, the Reaver Gatling Blaster, and the Apocalypse Missile Launcher on them. We've got a 8-banger of Myrmidons ready to go, 2 Domitars, and the Archmagos on foot leading them. Next to them, we've got a Cybernetica cohort. We've got 2 Arl attacks with a Tech Priest Auxilia hanging out with them. We've got the Thalax, full squad of them. Of course, we've got the Archmagos attached to the Warlord. And he's running Volkite Eradicator, Graviton, and Turbo Laser Destructors. From there, I've got my Alpha Legion allies. We've got 8 Daradeos for some anti-air. We've got 8 assaults for them good jetpacks. We've got 4 tacticals with 4 plasma legionaries attached and the commander with them, and a full squad of missile troops.
Nice. And so I just want to focus on Hunter's paint job here. This is Legio Furians, right?
Correct.
And so I think you did a decal for these flames on this one?
No decal. This was using stencils that I got from Anarchy Games.
Great.
Yeah. But
yeah, it looks fantastic. And then I think you hand painted the flames on this one, right?
Correct. Yeah, that was my first attempt painting Furians, and I definitely learned some things from them.
Yeah. Well, they look great.
Thank you.
They look fantastic on the table. So, yeah. All right, guys. Well, you can see he's got some custom bits here too, which makes them all the more special.
Oh yeah, from Battle Bling, I went ahead and got the incinerator cannon so that the Furians could run its special weapon, so to speak, in universe.
See that freehand right there? That's pretty impressive too.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that is 2,000 points of Alpha Legion and Mechanicum, and I'm going to take you through my Solar Auxilia force, and then we'll get deployed. Here we are with my 2,000 points of Solar Auxilia. This should be familiar to anybody who's watched a few of the older battle reports on the channel. It's pretty close to the list that I've been running for a while. We'll start over here with the sub-cohort. I have 8 Ogrons, 8 Velitari, and then 3 sections of identical las rifles with 2 flamers in support, and then one of them will have the Legate Marshal attached. Moving over to my Pioneer Company, we have the las rifle section with 4 flamers, 8 las rifles plus the tactical command, a section of 8 Velitari for some close combat support, 6 mole mortars, 4 tarantulas with the Skyfire missiles, and then 2 Valdor tank hunters, which I'm hoping will be put to good use against Hunter's Titans this game, if they can survive long enough. And then backing up the Pioneer Company is the Avenger Strike Fighter. I've armed it with the Hellfire missiles and the autocannon. I like to use this guy as a reserve against any deep striking units. Not sure that's something I'm going to have to worry about too much today, but I think it will be a good, still a good reserve unit. Moving over to my Armored Company, I have 3 detachments of 4 Leman Russ, and these are going to be protecting my back line. And then I have 2 detachments of heavier armor, one of Malcadors with the Vanquisher cannon, Demolisher cannons in the hull, and then las cannons in the sponsons, and 2 Stormblades, which are going to provide a little bit of punch moving up the table. So these 2 heavy detachments are going to be moving up the board to try to seize some of the bridges with the lighter tanks in support. So that's my 2,000 points. We're going to go ahead and get deployed, and we'll check in with you after that. All right, here we are at the end of deployment. This is my side of the table. And we've done all our infiltrate and forward deployment moves here. So you can see, I think this is a pretty conventional deployment for me. Set up most of my armor on the right. I'm hoping these guys will be able to seize control of the bridge. Got that Reaver hiding behind that building in the distance there. So that'll be an interesting matchup, all these tanks against it. Got my infantry in the back line here, ready to move up and take that bridge if the opportunity presents itself. Got these Leman Russ in the center, looking to move to either side depending on what comes across the horizon there. I got my Velatari behind this building. Hunter put his missile launchers in that building right there, so I didn't really want to set up my infantry in the buildings where they would just get torn up by those frag missiles. Garrisoned my one of my las rifle tercios in this structure here, again as kind of a reserve. And then I've got my Pioneer Company las rifle tercio behind this building again, just due to the fire dominance of Hunter's missile launchers in that building there. So again, big open area by that bridge. I was hoping to put something in that small building right there, but because of the missile launchers, I don't think it's practical. So, and then last, we have some more Leman Russ Vanquishers over here on the left, supported by 2 Valdor Tank Hunters and my last las rifle tercio with the Legate Marshal. So we got some mole mortars in the front there, and then the Tarantulas providing some fire on the bridge. And that is about it. My aircraft are, of course, still in reserve. But that's my deployment. I'm going to go over to the other side of the table, and I'm going to have Hunter take you through what he's done. And we'll go from there.
Right on. All right, so yeah, as you mentioned, the Reaver's just kind of hanging back just behind the building. We're going to try to get him up into some good shooting combat fairly shortly. The plasma mortars are stationed off to the left and right of him to provide fire support. Goal with them is hopefully maybe take out some buildings. The Domitar will be running right up the mid, keep a good range so that I can get those extra armor saves from Battlesmith on my Reaver. From there, on the right side, we've got my Derideos went ahead and did a little bit of a forward deployment there. We've got the Thalax, Archmagos, Arlatax, and Tech Priest, and the Warlord all clustered back up here. And then all the way up in the front, as Charlie mentioned, we've got a group of missile launcher men stationed inside the building with the assault lads hanging out just behind the building so that if the weight of his tank fire brings it down, I don't lose two.
And then
and then of course I've got my plasma legionaries and tactical groups sitting over in that, as well as my myrmidons hanging out in that building there. I completely forgot about them.
So there are 2 points. This silver that you've used, Hunter, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so those are done by the Molotov Chrome pens, and yeah, these things, once you get them on a model, you give them time to cure, it sets up looking like the finish on a chrome bumper, and it's just outstanding from the table perspective. You get a lot of flash and a lot of shine for very little effort.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
And then I think the only item I wanted to mention as far as terrain goes is these clouds that Hunter's produced for us. We're treating the shadow as the terrain footprint on the table, and we're just calling that obstructing terrain, just so you guys are aware. And then, of course, we've got these bridges and then the river in the center. So we're going to go ahead and do our first turn of movement, and we'll check back in with you after that. All right, so this is the end of movement turn 1. can see I brought my aircraft in, lining up to do an attack run on Hunter's Titan there. And then I got some tanks as well. So we'll go over on my end of the table. Starting there, infantry pretty much held their ground. I did move up my Ogrins and my Velatari behind my armored advance here towards the bridge. Malcadors pushed up to the edge. The Stormblades didn't have enough movement, so it's going to be not until next turn that they're going to be able to break cover and put some fire on the enemy. Moved my other detachment of Leman Russ here, and we should be able to get a shot at the Reaver way over there in the distance. We're going to have some cover, but better to take the shot than not, I think. Velatari still sheltering behind this building. Same thing with this Las Rifle Tercio here and here. And then all of my stuff over here is pretty much on first fire. So I might be able to get a shot with the Leman Russ at the Warlord. If I can get it to focus there. Yeah. So we'll get a shot there, but I think everything else is going to be out of range. The Vanquishers might be out of range still. We'll have to check. But yeah, that about covers it on my end. Hunter, do you want to take us through what you did? I'm going to go around here to the other side.
Yeah, mostly just kind of the same moves. We moved up whatever forces we had to behind buildings so that they don't get crushed in the impending explosions. And beyond that, just kind of a lot of march movements to try to get forces up the board fast enough to be viable for the mission. These guys just...
Yeah, these are garrisons, so we're just leaving them on the table just for convenience. So yeah, a pretty quiet first turn, actually, I think. We'll see how the combat phase goes, but I think, unlike most games, it's going to take a couple more turns for this battle to develop. But there's just a quick shot of the full table, and we're going to go ahead and do our combat, and we'll check in with you after that. All right, this is the end of combat turn 1. Put a bunch of fire into the Reaver between those buildings there. Aircraft, Leman Russ, Malcadors. Took down all the Void Shields, but Hunter was able to recover 2 in the end phase, and I wasn't able to do any actual wounds. So we're going to have to deal with him next turn, I guess, or try to. Hunter did destroy 2 of my Leman Russ here. They failed their morale check and then fell back off the board. And that was with your missile launchers?
Yeah, that was with the missile launcher.
Yeah. Because I made some good saves from the Reavers firing. So that was fortunate for me. Not too much notable engagements across the rest of the table. Over here, the Warlord did put some fire on my Valdors. Again, I got pretty lucky. I think I saved 2 of the 3 wounds. And that about covers it on my end, I think. Hunter, is anything I missed?
No, I think you got about summed up there.
Okay. All right. Great, guys. Well, we are going to go ahead and roll right into turn 2 movement, and we'll check in with you once we finish that. All right. This is the end of movement, turn 2. Definitely starting to make some moves, I think. Not so much on my end of the table. But Hunter's definitely committed his forces, I think. So I'll just go through mine real quick and tell you the things that that have changed since the last turn. Pretty much pulled my whole force back on the left flank here. Hunter's Warlord has such good range that pushing out into the open kind of seemed like suicide to me. Plus, he's got his Daradeos right there, which outranged me as well with those AP-2 missiles. So we're going to stay away from those. We've got some infantry still hiding behind these buildings. I did move my Leman Russ to try to get a shot at Hunter's Reaver. I think I'm going to be able to get 2, maybe, but we'll have to see. And infantry, Velatari stayed behind the building. I did maneuver my forces in the back line here. They say that a lateral movement in the face of the enemy is against all principles of warfare. But we're going to give it a shot and see how that turns out for us. Moved my tanks up, finally got to the edge, but Hunter was able to cleverly get his Reaver far enough away. I think I'm only going to get a single shot, and it's going to be in pretty heavy cover. So Leman Russ pushed up towards the bridge. Still going to be able to shoot at the Reaver, but I think that's going to be a 50% shot, so they're going to be hitting on 6s, which I don't have too much hope for. And then my Lightning maybe will be able to strip a couple of shields out. I thought about bringing my Avenger against the Reaver again, but I'm actually going to try to take out these 2 Thanatar, which are attempting to destroy this right-hand bridge. So if I can keep them from doing that, maybe I can still pull out a couple of victory points. But that's it for me. Hunter, why don't you go ahead and take us through your side of the movement phase?
Yeah. All right. So for the first turn, my Reaver was a faux movement. I went ahead and crossed him over to the actual position I intended to attack. So that whole force has kind of shifted right. The missile launcher gentlemen are hanging out. They're going to be chilling just to react to anybody else, maybe get some shots on his Lehman Russ, something like that. The plasma men in the very, very back, those mortars are still aiming at that bridge. We've got the Warlord took first fire, so I think other than his missile launchers over here, not going to have too many targets. Other than that, my infantry and walkers on the right side just pushed forward, basically deadpan with where they were.
Yep. And we do have some assault infantry crossing the river, so that is, I think, the first real unit that's made it across. So we're going to go ahead and do combat, and we'll check in with you after that. All right, so this is the end of combat turn 2. As you can see, there is a bridge no longer on the river, so Hunter was able to use his Thanatars to destroy it. I rolled poorly for the saves, so they were able to do 2 additional wounds, which destroyed the bridge. So we're going to have to find another route to victory. I lost 3 of my Lehman Russ to, I believe, the Reaver, right?
Yep.
And then the remaining one fell back, failed his morale check, to rally. So not doing too good on this flank. Stormblades not in range of the Reaver. Malcadors were able to shoot but didn't do too much. And Lehman Russ over here also targeted the Reaver, but we're not able to do any damage. So I think we knocked out a couple of shields with the Lightning and the Avenger combined between them. But pretty inconclusive on my side of the table. So I'm going to let Hunter take you through anything that I missed, anything on his side of the table.
No, pretty inconclusive over here. We're just moving guys up. We picked off a few Velatari, and that's really all it is.
So yeah, so again, another kind of inconclusive turn. I think next turn is when we'll kind of come closer to grips. But we're going to go ahead and do our remaining end phase stuff, and we'll check in with you at the end of movement turn 3. The final push is starting. This is the end of movement turn 3. Starting to get towards the end of the game, kind of feeling that, I don't know, the intuition maybe, whatever the right word is, starting to get that feeling. So over here on the right, again, brought my aircraft in, looking to get some shots at the Reaver. My tanks moved up. I'm not sure if that was a good or bad move here. Probably good because it seems like most of the action is on the other side of the table. It's bad because I've also put them in a more exposed position. They're going to be subject to fire from the missile launchers and the Myrmidons. So we'll see how that goes. The Malcadors are pretty resilient, so we'll see if they can last. My big horde of infantry is kind of moved up, trying to contain the push across the bridge. And then I was able to move my Lehman Russ just enough so we're going to have a good shot on the Reaver this turn. And then Hunter pushed his Assault Marines up to get over on the left side of the table. And I moved to counter with my Las Rifle Tercio. So we're going to get some shots with our Flamers and our Las Rifles. And then I've also moved up the Mole Mortars. So we might get a few shots. We'll see. And then the Valdors are still in the back. I'm kind of keeping them in reserve just for the final stages of the game because I think that Shock Pulse may be my ace in the hole to pull this one out of the bag. And that about covers it on my end. So let's go over to Hunter's side of the table. And go ahead, Hunter, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, basically just continuing to push up my forces. They were already committed in their positions. The Thanatar have both just kind of went left to help deal with the tanks that are on that flank. We've got the missiles stayed put. The Domitars are now finally in a position to fire with the Reaver, so the Reductor subdivision is still just doing what they do best, shooting stuff.
Yep.
On my right side of the map here, we've got all of my Alpha Legion pretty much massing and pushing up towards this bridge. We're going to see if we can hold it out against him for another 2 turns or so and see what happens. Other than that, the Warlord's just slowly making his push. A little bit of a mismove on my part. I gave him a Volkite, and he should have charged or marched the first turn, but it is what it is.
Okay, guys. Well, it's an interesting table position, I think. That bridge is worth 10 victory points for Hunter. And let's see, I basically, if I can keep you out of my deployment zone, I can get 25, I think.
Something like that.
So it's kind of a race to see who can last, who can basically hold out long enough. So we will see how it goes, guys. We're going to do combat, and we'll check in with you after that. All right, this is the end of combat turn 3. Starting to come down to the wire. I guess we'll start over here to change things up. We had a firefight between the assault marines, the mole mortars, and the las rifle section here. I did a few casualties to the assault marines, but I lost most of the remaining mole mortars. In the center, still moving my infantry up. No fire really. Everybody's pretty much out of range. And then over here on the right flank, lost 2 of my Malcadors. I made some very good saves with the Stormblades and the Malcadors, which is keeping me in the fight. The Avenger and the Lightning were able to do some casualties to the Thanatar, and then the Lightning, I believe, is what I used to take the Voids down on your Reaver, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and then the Lehman Russ squadron in the center was able to finish it off.
Yep.
So the explosion did a few casualties to the Marines in the building and to the Myrmidons, I believe.
Yep, we lost just a little bit of that, and we lost my Archmagus, which is the most important guy.
Yeah. So I think that's everything from my end. Hunter, you got anything to add?
No, pretty much just doing the same thing I have been, trying to push across and get myself into that back objective zone there.
Yeah.
Shortly, but yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, we're going to go to our next turn, and we'll check in with you then. All right, so here we are at the end of movement turn 4. Coming to a close. Forces are finally engaging at the bridge site. Let's see. Not too much over here. Thanatar's moved up. I brought my Avenger in. Armor fell back into the cover of the obstructing terrain. Brought my Lightning in here. Infantry just moving up, trying to stay out of too much of Hunter's fire. But he's pretty much crossed the bridge. And we're kind of waiting to do that final engagement here. The Arlatax did charge in on my infantry. I overwatched but didn't do any damage. Or I did do some damage, but Hunter's Battlesmith from his Tech Priest Auxilia saved the wound. And then I charged in on these Assault Marines here. Thalax over here. I brought my 2 Valdors up, trying to get them in position to threaten the Warlord if it moves up anymore. We'll see how that goes. Let's see. I think that's about it, right, Hunter? We got your infantry moved up behind this building.
Yeah.
So yeah, I won't belabor the point, guys. We're coming to the end of it here, so we're going to do combat, and we'll check in with you and show you the results in a minute. All right, here we are at the end of combat turn 4. Pretty quiet over here on the right side of the field. My aircraft came in, destroyed the last Thanatar there, the last 2 Thanatars that were moving up towards the river. The armor in the obstructing terrain did put a little bit of fire on the enemy, but it wasn't very effective. I think I might have done a single wound, maybe nothing at all. And then moving over here to the combats, the kind of decisive moment maybe was this engagement between the Las Rifles and the Arlatax. Took 2 casualties. They failed their morale check and then fell back or withdrew to the edge of the table. And then we had another combat here between the Assault Marines and the Las Rifle Tercio. I won the fight, but we still got Thalax, Garadeo, and Tactical Marines moving up across the bridge to contest this table quarter. So, I think a hard-fought game. Am I missing anything there, Hunter? I think I covered everything.
No, I think you got everything.
So, yeah, as I was saying, hard-fought game. I think we're going to call it there. This is turn 4. We just talked it through. Hunter has control of the remaining bridge, and he's got control for sure of these 2 table quarters. So that's going to give him 20 points. The only victory points that I could even conceivably get are for my secondary, which is Defiant, which I believe you get 15 if there's no enemy unit in your deployment zone, which is maybe what you were thinking of, Hunter. Yeah, sorry about that. So that's the only reason, the only way I could get 15. I could still get 10 if I control my deployment zone with my tactical strength, but there's no way that I'm going to be able to equal Hunter's current total. So we're going to go ahead and call it there. Yeah, Hunter, why don't you just tell us what you thought about the game and any last thoughts?
Yeah, I think this, as far as the scenario goes, is something everybody should try, because that fatal funnel for infantry coming through either side of the river, it's very deadly. It's very easy to leave your guys out in the open and to watch them get absolutely obliterated. Otherwise, though, Charlie got an absolutely awesome kill on the Reaver, so that was cool to see that. And really just those Arlatax, I think, holding up their end of the bargain, they are probably what kept me in the game there. So, but otherwise, yeah, I'm fairly happy with it.
Yeah, it was a nice assault force, right, to push them across the river and tie up my infantry there. Yeah, I think a great mission. From my perspective, one of the things that I probably have talked about this before on the channel, but having some kind of outflank capability could have saved me the game here, because I could have brought them on from a table edge, and then I would have been able to contest Hunter's deployment zone, which would have been 15 victory points.
Yep.
So I think that's one of the strengths for me of Legions Imperialis, is that, there are some game winning, or not game winning, but some strong army building options. But even with those being in the game, I think really the game is more about making tactically useful choices, and incorporating a balanced combined arms force.
Absolutely.
So that, I think, is what makes Legions Imperialis so much fun to play, and such a great game for us.
Yeah.
So
absolute blast playing you.
Yeah,
thanks
absolutely.
for having me.
Well, thanks, Hunter. I'm going to shake your hand.
Of course.
Thanks for the game. And yeah, guys, so we hope you enjoyed the game. Another one with Titans for us. Always great to see them on the table. And we're going to go ahead and sign off there. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that stuff. And we'll see you in the next one.